Well, hey everybody. Welcome to the Christel Crawford Show out of my gorgeous home, my gorgeous office. I'm so glad that you're here. And I believe was the season 3, episode 45. And if you had told me, I don't know how many years ago now, 3 years ago, that this is where we would be, I would not have believed you. I want you to know that if you've just stumbled on this show, hi Jasna. First of all, I record this live on Facebook, so if you're listening to the audio, that's the reason for all the hellos. I really am so grateful for you guys that joined me live. Hi Kitu, hi Kinga. And this show was created out of this desire to make sure that if you wanted to change your stars, you knew that there were tools available for you to do it. So I take one access consciousness, I take a topic really, and I riff in and around it. And today's topic, I just called it trust. Hi Taneki. And so you guys that are live, if you know some friends join us on the conversation live, just share it and we'll get some more people on here with us. I think we are on day 6 now of a 14-day Facebook Live journey called what did I call it? 14 days of following the energy, strengthening trust in you. And so it's got this topic right up in my face for me. Hi, Connie. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it today because there's a lot. I mean, we're living in a changed world. And I feel like I've said that every week. I feel like I've said that every week. Probably because I have. And what's showing up for me with all of this change is a big demand in my world to follow the energy of what's next. And I have never been so aware of how different that is than I was this week, where in a conversation with my partner, hey Connie, hi Carla, we were going back and forth about, we've had some different possibilities show up. And this is what happens, right? You have in your life, different things show up. You get into conversations with friends, random shit occurs, you see something on the internet, and all of a sudden you've just got, different things showing up in your life. So we're all faced with all the time a changing landscape. And, when you are you kind of have a tendency to project that everybody's like you, and that's not true. And so as me, following the energy as a volcano dragacorn, that feels really normal to me. It feels really normal to me to always be looking at the energies of things and is this going anywhere? Is it moving? Nope. Okay, let's go where it's moving. What possibilities are available here? What else is possible that I haven't considered? How does it get any better than that? That feels normal to me. That's my reality. But that's not everybody's reality. And my sweet man, he just functions different. And we had this really intense conversation over something that we thought we were on the same page about, which, by the way, you're never on the same page as anybody, because, we are all seeing the world from our own realities. And it turned out that, hi Leah, he had one idea of how this thing was going to go, and I had a totally different idea, and they didn't match. And it was one of those moments where, in a situation where I might have caved what I knew would work for me in favor of caring about somebody else. I might have done that before. But last week, as me now, in these 10 seconds, I'm sitting across from the man that I care about more than anything, who is struggling with, hey Jason, this idea and what he thought was going to be and what really is about the situation. And realizing that I could not and would not give me up and what I knew to be true in favor of his dream of this thing. And I know I'm being vague, but I can't give you specifics, I'm sorry. So I had to, in that moment, trust me. And there's been a lot of that's been growing. There's been a lot of things showing up, choices in front of me to make where, the logic of that choice is just missing, but the energy and what I'm aware that choice will create is there. And so I've had to choose, am I going to go with the choice that either makes the most sense, isn't going to rock the boat, isn't going to make anybody wonder, or am I going to commit to what I know is true for me and go forward with the choice that, hi Mara, is going to create the most from my point of view. And this is the whole conversation of living. Right here, we're having it. This is the only conversation about living, because all of us are, we came here, we've got a body, we're doing a thing called living, and every single moment of every single day we're faced with choices. And for me, most of my life, most of my choices were based on something, based on whether, I don't even know, based on whether or not this choice would make that person leave, whether or not it would make other people comfortable, whether or not it would make me look a certain way, whether or not it would, I have no idea, be the professional thing, the not professional, whatever the fuck, right? Like all my choices prior to probably this year and ongoingly better were based on something. And this year, and especially in the last three to 6 months, like I have really, really committed to choosing the things that I know are going to create for me that I can't necessarily explain to anybody else. And that's trust in you. Now, trust is an element of intimacy, and elements are these things that when you function from them, create different futures. They're elements. They're actually molecular elements. And trust is an element of intimacy. There's 5 of them. There's trust, vulnerability, gratitude, honoring. I always miss one. Honoring, vulnerability, gratitude. I always want to say kindness. Wow. Honoring, somebody help me. Vulnerability, allowance, gratitude, honoring, and trust. Okay, those are the 5 elements of intimacy with you. Now, I first heard about these elements of intimacy in my very, very first foundation class, and foundation is such a game changer. If you guys want one, I have one coming next week, June 19th through the 21st. Thanks, Berkey. So, that's where you first hear about them. And when I first heard about them, I was really, the only reason I took foundation is I wanted to be happier. I wanted to find out how to not see a professional 3 times a week, because I was seeing a professional to not kill myself 3 times a week. And I wanted to know how to have better relationships. So when in my first foundation class, opened up the manual and saw the elements of intimacy, of course, my mind that it is, went to like romantic relationships, and I was like, oh good, we're gonna get to talk about like intimacy between people. I really want to know how to do that well, because I've been through 2 marriages. I was fresh into a new separation, but you get into that section and that topic, and you find out that it has nothing to do with another person. It actually has to do everything to do with you being with you. And if the way you are with you is completely dismissive, like completely shaming, guilting, making wrong, judging, you have no access to you. You have no access to you, and I said that one sentence right there, knowing that that's where most of us function. I know that because I function from there still, that's sort of my default, especially when I get into intense situations. Now it's changed so much, but when you function from that place, like you have no access to you. You have no access to what you're really capable of, no access to what it is that's really going to work for you, no access to your awareness of the future. And I just find that to be an unacceptable place to live. No access to me. I am just not having that anymore. And that for me is my driver in the way that I use these access consciousness tools. And one of the sets of tools that has given me more access to me than any other set of tools has been the 10 keys to total freedom. Now, imagine that. Total freedom. And what I'm discovering, but what I'm discovering about having total freedom of choice, which we always have, but we don't necessarily claim that we have. What I'm discovering about that is that it's confronting. Because with total freedom, you can't ask somebody else what the best choice is for you. You can't even explain your choices to anybody else necessarily. You can only tell them what they can hear. And you can't even really explain your choices to you. So So your source of joy has to come from what you know about what this choice is going to create. That's where it's got to come from. Like, it can't come from any outside sources because you don't make fucking sense. And because functioning from and as energy, like functioning from awareness and going, okay, if I choose this, what's this choice going to create, doesn't invite in any logic. It's not a logic question. That's a question that looks at simply the energy that will be generated if you choose that thing. So if I choose this thing in this direction, like, what's my life going to be like in 5 years? And all you do is you look at the energy. Now, if you are a person that has for your entire existence been pretty addicted to thinking, that question is a shit show. Because you can't think out 5 years in advance. You can't. You know, that's not the way thinking works. Thinking requires reference points. It requires things that you've already experienced, reference points. So for that, so if you're addicted to thinking, that question, you're just not going to use that question because it doesn't match thinking. That question is designed to bring up an energy. And so you have to use different muscles with that, right? Like, you have to use perceiving. You have to use receiving. And what is that for you? Now, this may be something that you have to practice, right? So I forget where it's going with that now. So many tracks all at the same time. So anyway, that's the thing about living your life and being committed to following the energy, is that you won't make sense even to you. Because making sense implies that it's logical. It's not logical. Choice making is not necessarily logical. It may follow a pattern that people can follow, but most of the time it doesn't. And that's, to most people in the world, that's like the worst thing ever. It's like, well, if it doesn't follow a pattern, or if it doesn't follow a logical linear thing, then what are we doing, you know? But what I've started to really get more than ever, and all the time more and more, is that, hey, Maxine, we don't live in a logical, linear universe. We have just constructed all these constructs of logical and linear. Those are all made up. Our logical, linear things are all workflows that we've created to try to make sense of a nonsensical universe. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't organization in the universe, because if you look at the Earth, for example, the Earth and the way plants function and animals function actually does have an organization onto it. There is a way things work, but there's a way things work, not a way we think they should work. I think if we ran the world, honestly, let's say we ran the world and we were farmers, our ideal way of farming would be, we put a seed in the ground and in the next 5 minutes or yesterday it was full grown. If we ran the world, that would be the way we prefer to farm. Okay? But the way things work with farming is different. The way things actually work. So when we talk about following the energy, we talk about trusting you, we're talking about you tapping into the way things actually work. And the way things actually work is not logical or linear. In fact, even with seeds, like, yes, there's a way things work with seeds, but even every individual seed is different, you know? So if you are not present with the way things work, if you're not present with what is, then you miss out on all the possibilities, all the things that could come out of being present with what is in favor of what you think should be. And then you discard all the gifts in front of you. So building trust in your awareness, trust in what you know is going to create for you, is key. It's key to you having you. Because you can only lead yourself to where you're going with awareness. You can't lead yourself to where you're going with thinking. You can't even figure out what you want to choose next. You have to ask, what do I want my life to be like in 5 years? Get the energy and then choose things that match that. Because there's no reference point for what it is you want to have as your life out there. There is nobody living the way you really want to be living right now. Not even Gary Douglas, not even Dane here. You may want aspects of that. There may be elements of that. There may be energies in that. But what you desire and what you're capable of is so unique to you. There's nothing that can show you how to do that. So if you do not strengthen trust in you, then you will miss out on what you're truly capable of generating and creating. you'll miss out on enjoying you. You'll miss out on the peace of joy and the joy of peace. For me, that's an unacceptable reality. Like, missing out on that, not an option. I'm having that. I'm having peace of joy, joy of peace. I am having more money than God. I am having all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. My question to you is, what are you having? What are you demanding of yourself that you have? And what would you need to add to your life to have it? So for me, the keys to this, accessing this space in me, this ability as me, has come through like deep diving, deeply practicing, committing to the 10 keys to total freedom, because they are actually total freedom. And that's why, I mean, you're invited, of course, to a class starting Friday called CrystalJoyCrawford.com/total freedom, if that's something that would add to your life. But what I want to talk about with them is that everything about the 10 keys invites us to what's beyond the linearity of this reality. Now, let me break that down into plain language. So I have a friend who is, let me go back. Your point of view creates your reality, okay? Your point of view creates your reality. That's how it is. One of the people that I'm super close to has the point of view that nothing's worth doing unless it's hard. Okay, that's a pretty popular point of view, right? I am coming now from the functional place of, hey, all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. So living very closely to each other, we are having two totally different experiences of a very similar change in economic structure. I'm having all of life come to me with ease, joy, and glory, and he's struggling and working hard and plowing forward through barriers and finding the barriers so that he can plow forward, so that he can feel like he's accomplished something. Our fundamental points of view are creating a diametrically opposed reality with the same circumstances. So that is what you have to look at for yourself. What do you want your life to be like? So your point of view creates your reality comes from everything's just an interesting point of view. It's just an interesting point of view that things have to be hard. It's just an interesting point of view that things need to be easy. All of it's interesting. And when everything is actually interesting, when it's just interesting that you need money, it's just interesting that you want money, it's just interesting that you can't get it, it's just interesting that you think you can't or whatever, then when that becomes just interesting, you have all choice, total choice. Well, guess what? Another key, you have a new choice in every 10 seconds. So even if you make the choice to move forward over here, you have a new choice in every 10 seconds. You'll get awareness from it. Choice creates awareness, you know? And then you can always ask a question. You want to live as the question. So you can go, okay, well, what else is possible here that I haven't considered, right? They're the tools for the creation of a reality that really works for you, that includes you. When you do point of view like, this has to be hard. And look, most of our points of view are unconscious, so you don't even know you're doing them. But let's just say we're functioning from a totally obvious conscious point of view. Making money has to be hard. When you do that, what you eliminate is everything else contributing to you. That's all. You only include what you've decided is possible. So nobody else can contribute to you. The universe can't contribute to you. We have this dimensional, multitudinous, magnanimous universe surrounding us. We're in it. There is money everywhere. There is riches everywhere. There is billions of dollars. There's wealth beyond the dollars. We are living in the most wealthy, fucking rich planet, world, universe ever. And each one of us are having our own experience of that based on our own points of view about what can and cannot be. A conversation I was having last week about what showed up in my world had to do with, this person over here saying, well, this is the way it works and it can only work this way. And I'm going, but what I'm telling you is that what's shown up in my world is a way that it can work differently, and I don't know how it showed up in my world or why it's in my world, but here it is, and it's different. And he's like, that can't exist because, you know, this, and this. And I just sat there going, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter how much I try to prove that this actually does exist. For him, it doesn't. It can't. It doesn't match his point of view. And that's what happens. We take all these unconscious points of view and we function from them, and we're like, nothing outside of these points of view can exist, and that's just the way it is. And then we have our reality, and all of your points of view are what are creating your reality right now. And so, you know, the problem with all that shit is that it's just unconscious. And that's the thing about unconsciousness, is you don't know it's there because it's unconscious. And that's what the gift of the 10 keys is like, so immense. Because when you actually ask a question like, I want to choose this, I think I should choose this is probably a really good choice. And then you ask a question like, well, would an infinite being choose this? And you get yes, then all of a sudden you have the awareness of that choice is actually going to create space. Ooh, exciting, right? You know, when you're like mulling back and forth about this choice or this choice and you're not really sure, and you're like, well, I don't know, fuck, if I wasn't doing any form, structure, or significance, what would I choose? And all of a sudden you have the clarity of what you would choose if you weren't trying to make sense, do structure, and you have access to the gifts of the universe just waiting to be bestowed on anybody willing to receive them. That's the gift of the 10 keys to total freedom. Is it gives you access to your ability to pull out of the universe the fucking magnanimous, like, rain shower of plenty that is waiting for anybody willing to receive it. And I've just never seen that so clearly as I saw this week. And it requires you to trust you. It requires you to trust you, to lead yourself forward into that next thing that's going to unlock your abilities with that. To lead yourself forward into to trust when you choose something that even if it doesn't work out, you can choose something else. To trust that you always know that you're going to leave the keys, you know, you're going to lose your keys if you don't put them in your purse. To trust you. And it takes a lot of, this journey of trusting yourself takes courage. But my point of view is, man, if I can get myself here through all the shit that I got through in my life, I got the balls. I got the balls for this trusting me thing. And will it be uncomfortable? Sure. Will I have to be way more aware of what people can hear because I don't make sense to anybody? Yep. You know, am I going to have to really actively stay really present with everything? Yeah. And for me, there's no other way to live. So what's the way that you want to live now, in this moment, from now? Do you want to have the joy of peace and the peace of joy? Do you want to have access to everything that you are capable of being aware of and choosing and creating? You know, what do you want to have? What kind of ease and joy and glory would you like to have? What would you have to choose to have it you? So I'm really excited to invite you to the class, of course. It's ChristelJoyCrawford.com/total-freedom. I'm excited to invite you to the foundation class next week. You can find that on accessconsciousness.com/ChristelCrawford. I'm excited for you to be you, and excited for me. And so I'm going to keep it short this week. And you can ask, like, if I was willing to trust me, what would I choose here? If I was trusting me, what would I choose? If I was grateful for me, what would that change? If I had total allowance for me here, what would I choose? If I was honoring me, what would I choose? If I was being vulnerable with me right now, what would I know? What would I choose? And start incorporating those elements of intimacy into your world with you, and see what's possible, see what shows up, see what choices become available that weren't there before, because you weren't asking yourself those questions. Live as the question. Ask the questions. Be the question. All right, cool. So if this contributed, share it. And otherwise, I will see you guys next week.